In the words of Ecclesiastes, a season is set for everything, a time for every experience under heaven, a time for dancing and a time for wailing, a time for birthing and a time for dying, a time for speaking and a time for silence, a time for seeking and a time for losing. Time of mourning is a complicated time filled with many emotions and memories, both bitter and sweet. We begin our service with the recitation of psalms and prayers, thus linking Stan's life with the 3,000-year-old tradition of the people Israel and with the eternity of God. Mizmor leDavid, Adonai ro'i lo achzar. Pinot asher yahar b'tzeini, al mei menuchot yinahaleini. Psalm of David. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He makes me to lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside the still waters. He restores my soul. He guides me in straight paths for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou prepare a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou hast anointed my head with oil, my cup runs over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Grief arrives in its own time, by Stuart Kestenbaum. Grief arrives in its own time. It doesn't announce itself or knock on the door of your heart. Suddenly, it's right behind you, looking with great pity at the back of your neck and your shoulders, on which it spends days placing a burden and lifting it. Grief arrives in its own sweet time. Sweet, because it lets you know that you are alive. Time, because what you are holding becomes the only day there is. The sun stops moving. The sky grows utterly quiet and impossibly blue. Behind the blue are the stars we can't see, and beyond the stars, either dark or light, both of which are endless. Death has taken Stanley Harris, Shmuel ben Moshe Yehudit, a longtime member of Congregation Agudat Achim. Stanley is mourned by our community, by his loving wife, Barbie, his former wife, Judy, and her husband, Ken, his daughter, Tiffany, his brother, Fred, and sister-in-law, Laura, his cousin, Michelle, and longtime chosen family, Jeff and Jody, and devoted neighbor, Bree Kerr, along with many more family and friends. I'd like to invite Barbie to share some words of memory.
I guess for me, my life with Stan began on New Year's Eve at a party with a former girlfriend of my husband. And even though I knew him when we were in high school, I was in junior high, he was in high school, we were members of USY in this congregation. I was a kid, I was in junior high, you know, he couldn't pay attention to me. Anyway, fast forward a number of years, we met at this party, and I liked him. I liked him a whole lot, just in the few hours that we were together. He asked if he could come over New Year's afternoon, and I said, yeah. And I went home and I said to my German Shepherd, who was my lifeline, there's a guy coming over, and I'm going to trust your senses whether or not I should continue to see him. My shepherd really had strong messages for me, and toward the end of my relationship with my former husband, I caught on to his messages, and I decided to listen to him. Stan came over, put his hand down, the dog sniffed him, licked him, and I said, yes, this is good. A little bit later, when we were talking about getting married, he asked me if it would be okay if we lived with Mother. Mother was his mom. His dad had passed away many years prior. I said, I love your parents, but I really don't want to live with Mother. I love your mother. I really don't want to live with her. I love my parents. I don't want to live with them either. And he said, no, not with her, but upstairs. He lived in a two-family house, and Mother lived downstairs, and he wanted to have us live upstairs, be closer to her. And I said, that is perfect. She was a very non-intrusive mother-in-law, as I found out, and she was ideal. It was absolutely marvelous to be able to be close to her when she was in need. Stan offered me stability and consistency and living in one place. The longest I had lived anywhere had been 4 years in one place after I moved out of my parents' home when I was 20. So 4 years was a big deal to me. I'm still living in that same house, and it feels really good. I feel grounded to be able to be close to Stan and his real roots. And he was always respectful of my wishes. He asked very little of me. I asked a lot of Stan, and he was good. But when he asked something of me, I really had to listen, and I did what he asked because it was so rare that he had such a strong opinion and feeling. We traveled, not extensively, but we took a couple of nice trips every year. Stan would make a suggestion, you know what, I would like to go to blah, blah, and I said, great. That was the end of his part of the deal. I made all the arrangements, but it worked for both of us, that he would make the suggestion. I wasn't much of a traveler, but I needed to be with my husband, so I followed him around. Traveling. Our dearest friends that we met at a You and Your Aging support group were Della and Ira Gilman. Jeff and Jody are sitting here, their children. Della and Ira and Barbie and Stan became one word. We just couldn't separate. We ate out together frequently. We never traveled again without them. It was always the four of us. But prior to doing a lot of traveling with them, at one point they kept talking about this magnificent place in Maine called Sebago Lake, the lodge at Sebago Lake, and they talked about it, and all Stan and I said, we want to go. We didn't say that to them, but we really wanted to see this magnificent place. And one night, they said, you know what? We would like to ask you to join us for a week. And both of us were sending signals back and forth, really excited. We're finally going to get to go to Maine. And they said, we have a week's vacation in Florida. That wasn't quite what I wanted. I lived in Florida. I didn't like it, but they were asking us. And we had a marvelous time when we were there with them. That was our first big trip away. The following year, we did go to Maine with them, and they spend a whole month during the month of August, and we would spend a week. I'm a restless soul, and I can't stay in one place for very long, except, like I said, I'm more than happy to be in one place now for 40 years. So we chose to only go for 1 week. We swam, we played games. We were there for a whole week during Hurricane Bob, when there was nothing to do, and in the middle of a state park in Maine, it's black. So what do? You can do other things, or you can play games and visit. We spent a lot of time going to Portland to the movies, which had electricity. We had no power. We played a fireman's brigade, trucking water up from the lake, dumping it into the bathtubs so that we had some kind of sense of sanitation. Those were wonderful times together, absolutely wonderful. And they bring strong memories back every time I see something that triggers it. Stan and I actually did have a partnership. Even though we were, married and we should be partners, we also had a different kind of a relationship. I often spoke of my husband as being my boyfriend. And people would say, I thought you were married. Yeah, we are married, but you know what? I still like my husband. So people who like their partners call them their boyfriend. After you get married, somewhere along the way, it just sort of, I don't know. I can't speak for anybody else, but I know how I felt. I liked my husband, as well as deeply loving him. We supported each other. When I was working and Stan wasn't, after he left teaching, he went into a depression. He had had enough of teaching middle school health and science, and he just lost it. So he went into a depression, and I continued doing what I was doing in the medical field. He was very supportive, and although he still, you never made me that pepper steak you promised. But he did dishes, he did laundry. I came home one day, and back in the olden days, we had a clothesline. We had a washer and a dryer. But I drove into the backyard, and he had clothes hanging on the clothesline. It was a beautiful sunny day, and the wind was blowing. And I said, why did you do that? Is the dryer not working? And he said, you know, I can't smell things, but I know how much you love the smell of fresh sheets and towels. So I thought I would do this for you. Stan was not overly demonstrative, but every once in a while he would do something to me that was incredibly romantic, and I thought that was. I loved it. Absolutely was touched that he would drag wet clothes upstairs from the basement to the second floor and hang them out on the line. I was impressed. I guess I'm not a master. I was a mistress of hanging on to anger and holding grudges. And Stan said to me, "Don't do that. That happened 10 minutes ago, last week, but let it go. This is now, we move forward. If we carry that baggage with us, what good is it going to do?" And it really stayed with me. All of my life, I carried grudges. I really did let them go. He pushed me through that, for which I will ever be grateful. And also, when I would start getting kind of crazy or something, Stan would just quietly say to me, "Back up 30 and punt. It'll come together." I wasn't sure what kippah to wear today. I have a black one with pink footprints on it, hot pink footprints that are kitty prints, or puppy prints, I suppose. And I was going to wear that because Stan, as our pets, we've had a number of dogs and cats, and as our pets left their footprints on us, my husband's leaving his footprint in my heart. But I don't know why I chose not to wear it. One thing that Stan learned when he went to auctioneer school, and I don't know if I can do this, but it was a chant. Often when you hear an auctioneer, you never really know what they're saying because they're not saying anything. It's just a bunch of words to get up to the bottom line when the gavel comes down. So, this one's for you, honey. Hey, dee, minnie, money, minnie, money, minnie, money, minnie, money, bitty, body, bang, bing, bang, sold. What did I say? Nothing. Bunch of gibberish. And the last thing I'm going to say is, and this is again directed to my husband, our wedding rings have Anila Dodi Vidodi Li from the Song of Songs. And in English, it translates to, "I am my beloved's, and my beloved is mine." And I always left him on the phone or signing off cards with, "I will always love you, always and all ways."
I'd like to invite Jeff Gilman up to speak. Words of memory.
Just a few quick memories of Stan. As Barbie said, she and my parents, Della and Ira, were as close can be. I think I was in college when the four of you met at the aging parents group. I remember coming home for some party, whether it was Thanksgiving or what event it was, I don't recall. But my parents mentioned that they were excited to introduce us to their new friends, Barbie and Stan. That they described them as we've met our Fred and Ethel. Sorry, I blanked out there. We found our Fred and Ethel, referring to the Lucille Ball show. And true enough, they were Lucy and Ricky and Fred and Ethel for an awful lot of years now. And that relationship has meant so much to my parents, to my sister and I, to be part of your family. Stan was the perfect foil for my father. My father was loud and out front and not in any way shy, not in any way reserved. He said what he wanted to say and didn't think twice about it. Stan was much more reserved. He was quieter in the background, but had a mischievous sense of humor. And my memory of Stan's sense of humor was not so much a joke that he told, but that it was so often followed by Barbie's voice saying, "Oh, Stanley." The two of you were perfect for my parents. You were perfect for each other. And I'm so glad that you had each other for so many years.
Thank you. I'd like to invite Judy up to speak.
Well, for those of you that don't know me, my name is Judy Clements, and it used to be Judy Harris, because I was Stan's first wife. Now, some people found it strange when I told them that my ex-husband Stan and his wife Barbie were among my closest friends. What? How can that be, they would say. Don't you know you're supposed to hate your ex-husband, and you're supposed to detest his new wife? Well, we broke the rules. The four of us were always cordial. In fact, more than cordial, we were friends. Yes, we shared the bond of a beautiful daughter, Tiffany. But beyond that, we always felt like mishpucha, often celebrating holidays together, checking on each other, always letting each other know when we were going out of town so that at least one set of parents would be around if Tiffany needed us. Sometimes Barbie and I would plan a girls' lunch out just to catch up on one another. When people from Schenectady would run into us, they would often assume that we were sisters. I mean, we both had short hair, warm personalities, and Harris family history. So of course, they assumed we were sisters. We just laughed. Tiffany always had the advantage and the disadvantage of 4 parents. 4 people to care about her, advise her, and annoy her. When Ken and I moved to Clifton Park, and Tiffany was still attending religious school in Schenectady, Barbie and Stan pitched in, driving her up and back from Clifton Park to Schenectady and back again. We worked as a team. My biggest challenge was always calling Ken by the right name when the 4 of us were together. I never called Ken Stan when it was just the two of us. But for some strange reason, whenever the four of us got together, or if I was talking to Barbie over the phone about something Ken and I did, my brain usually malfunctioned, resulting in my calling Ken Stan. But somehow, Barbie always knew what I meant. We all had some good times. Stan and Judy, Stan and Barbie, Stan, Barbie, Judy, Ken, and Tiffany. We will treasure those memories.
Learning from Death by Rabbi Karen Kedar. Learning from death. The true worth of a life is the story it has left behind. Tell it well. Search for meaning and understanding. Did he search for the truth? Did he teach you about love? Did she personify genius or sensitivity? Did his life warn you of the danger of bitterness and anger? As I stand and behold the eyes of those who mourn, I realize that the only difference between people in this world is not their wealth, fame, or success. The only difference is those who had love in their life and those who did not. I didn't know Stan very well, having only met him once or twice before the pandemic started, and then not after that. But Stan definitely had love in his life. He loved movies and books. He loved collecting things. He loved teaching and connecting with people. He loved his family, and especially Barbie, with whom he spent many years of marriage. He loved his daughter and his cousins and the family he chose, his friends. You've already heard such vivid stories about Stan from the people who knew him best. I can't share more than what they have already shared, but I will try to share something of what I learned about him from talking to them over the last couple of days. Stan was a quiet man with a dry sense of humor, who spoke briefly, but when he opened his mouth, he made your sides split with laughter. These last years, his nurses found him interesting and entertaining right up until last week, and they would tell Barbie about his sense of humor. When he was lucid in this world, as Barbie said, he would make jokes and quips, and maybe even in the times that he was in his own world, he would be able to say things that would make people laugh. Michelle told me about how Stan would make up songs all the time. He would just sing songs out of the blue that would rhyme and be funny, even though he didn't have a singing voice. Stan had this way of connecting to people that wasn't about being warm and fuzzy, but was about being present and honest and there. Barbie described what he looked like. His bright red cheeks, his ruddy complexion, and a big round tummy like a Buddha, and his back shirt tail was always hanging out. He was so identifiable by his ruddy cheeks and hanging out shirt tail that Barbie could tell strangers, when my husband comes, do such and such. How will I know who your husband is? Oh, his ruddy cheeks and his shirt tail. Identifiable by those signals. Stan taught middle school in a three-piece suit. Always well-dressed. Always a gentleman. Always a teacher. He was always able to find a way to teach something, to make something more understandable. Barbie shared with me and with you about the strength of their partnership, about the way that they cared for each other, how when he was working and Barbie wasn't, she mowed the lawn, and how when she was working and he wasn't, he did the laundry. How when they hosted holiday dinners at their home, they could have everything washed and dried and put away very quickly because they worked together and got it done. I think that sense of true partnership also extended to the way that they co-parented Tiffany. There's a real power in the ability to put aside whatever differences there are and work together. Stan was never big into the formal practices of Judaism, but he was a lifelong member of the synagogue. As Barbie mentioned, they met in USY when this synagogue was downtown. Stan wanted to have a Jewish home and a connection to the Jewish people. Stan was always there for Barbie. He was a rock, consistent, stabilizing force in her life. Barbie told me that the thing she misses the most is his warm feet in bed at night. What a beautiful image. He will be deeply, deeply missed. Yehi zichro baruch. May his memory bring blessing to everyone who knew him. This is my prayer to you, my God. Let not my spirit wither and shrivel in its thirst for you and lose the dew with which you sprinkled it when I was young. May my heart be open to every broken soul, to orphaned life, to every stumbler wandering unknown and groping in the shadow. Bless my eyes, purify me to see humanity's beauty rise in the world, and the glory of my people in its redeemed land, spreading its fragrance over all the earth. Deepen and broaden my senses to absorb a fresh, green, flowering world, to take from it the secret of blossoming in silence. Grant strength to yield fine fruits, quintessence of my life, steeped in my very being, without expectation of reward. And when my time comes, let me slip into the night, demanding nothing, God, of humanity or of you. Please rise if you are able. El Malei Rachamim. shochein bamromim. Hamsei menucha nechona tachat kanfei ashchina. B'malot kedoshim uteorim kizohar harakia mazirim and nishmat Shmuel ben Moshe Yudit she'alach le'olamo Began Eden tehei menuchato ana ba'al harachamim Hasirehu b'seiter knafecha le'olamim Utzror b'yitzror ha'chaim en nishmato Adonai hu nachalato V'yanuach b'shalom al mishkavo v'nomar Amen. El Malei Rachamim, exalted, compassionate God, grant infinite rest in your sheltering presence among the holy and the pure, to the soul of Stanley Harris, who has gone to his eternal home. Merciful One, we ask that our loved one find perfect peace in your eternal embrace. May his soul be bound up in the bond of everlasting life. May he rest in peace. And let us say, Amen. Our God and God of our ancestors, 1,000 years in your sight are as a passing day, an hour of night. The generations come and go while you endure forever. We are always in your hand, Adonai, in death as in life. Help us who mourn the loss of Stanley Harris to look beyond this moment, to realize that death cannot destroy the bonds of your everlasting love. Sustain us with the knowledge afforded by faith, that you will not allow us to suffer oblivion. For you, Eternal One, have taught us the way of life. Through you, we gain eternity. And let us say, Amen. Shiva will be in person at the Harris residence on Wednesday and Thursday evenings, tonight and tomorrow night, from 6 to 8:30 p.m., with the service in person and by Zoom at 7:15. Shiva Minyanim will continue by Zoom at our other services this week, especially Sunday and Monday evenings at 7:15, and Friday, Sunday, and Monday and Tuesday mornings. Family requests that donations be made in Stan's honor to Congregation Agudat Achim or to the Michael J. Fox Foundation. And everybody is invited to join us at the cemetery in Rotterdam for the interment and burial, and to return here for the beginning of Shiva meal.